The engines whisper before they roar, a deep trembling sound that crawls through the ground and into the chest. The sky above is still dark, tinted with the last blues of night as the countdown hums through the comms. Inside the capsule, the world outside seems distant, like a dream you're about to leave behind. Every vibration reminds you that soon there will be no sky, no wind, no sound of leaves rustling. Just the slow hum of machinery and the infinite black beyond Earth's tender curve. The final breath taken under open air lingers, heavy and sweet. The voice in the headset counts down with a calmness that doesn't belong to the moment. 10, 9. Each number drops like a heartbeat, closer and closer to the unknown. You can almost hear the world holding its breath. Somewhere, families watch on screens, their faces pale in the glow, their hearts pressing silently against hope. The engines ignite in a single, blinding gesture, a column of light, thick with fire and purpose, rising through the dawn. The earth beneath grows smaller, fading through the trembling haze of atmosphere. Gravity, once a constant companion, begins to loosen its hold. The straps tighten as the rocket tilts, the horizon slipping into strange angles, blue fading into black. The rumble softens into a distant growl as the capsule shakes free from the weight of the world. Below, continents curve into shadows, oceans glint like scattered glass. The sky no longer ends, it becomes something else entirely, endless, patient, waiting. It's a feeling that both humbles and isolates. You realize, in a single shiver of thought, that home has already begun to drift away. Inside the spacecraft, the noise changes from thunder to rhythm, mechanical, predictable, steady. The vibrations turn to silence, and for the first time, you feel truly suspended. No up, no down. Just the slow drift of your body, the soft hum of life support, and the faint blue halo of Earth through the window. The contrast is startling, chaos replaced by stillness, gravity exchanged for weightless surrender. You watch the world below and wonder how something so massive can look so fragile, so temporary. As you stare at the globe that once held you, memory begins to soften the edges of fear. You think of grass bending under morning dew, the smell of rain on warm soil, the quiet laughter of someone waiting far below. The blue glow feels alive, pulsing gently like a heart. It's strange to realize that all of humanity, every song, every story, every dream is still there, spinning beneath clouds. A single living world, now nothing more than a sphere of color in an endless dark sea. There's a kind of grief in leaving, even for explorers. The wonder doesn't erase it, it deepens it. You feel the ache of distance blooming slowly, spreading through your chest as Earth slips further from sight. In that moment, you understand that space is not just about distance, it's about separation. A slow, deliberate letting go of everything familiar. You whisper a silent promise to remember what warmth feels like, what sound feels like, what the pull of gravity means when your feet find the ground. The rocket's upper stage disengages, a muted clank echoing through the cabin. Systems stabilize. The view shifts. You catch the thin, trembling line of atmosphere, a fragile veil wrapping a living world. Beyond it, there's only the deep velvet of night, sprinkled with cold stars. The crew murmurs through comms, voices soft with awe and fatigue. It feels sacred, this silence. The kind of silence that doesn't just fill space, but defines it. You realize you're not escaping home, you're carrying it with you in memory, in heartbeat, in breath. Time stretches in strange ways once you've left Earth's pull. The minutes blur. You float between switches and screens, between laughter and stillness. Yet, every so often, your eyes return to the window. You search for the continent where your story began. The curve of land, the shimmer of light, all too small to name. And still, it feels impossibly close, as if the planet knows you're watching and turns slightly to meet your gaze. There's a quiet exchange there, one that words can't reach. The realization comes gently: you've become a witness to your own leaving. The engines did their work, the boosters fell away, and now all that's left is momentum. The capsule glides through a region where sound cannot follow, where the only language is light. You trace the edge of the world one last time and feel a strange calm settle in. The fear that once pressed against your ribs turns into reverence, a peaceful acceptance of the unknown. It feels almost like drifting into a dream. The commander's voice breaks the stillness with routine checklists, but behind each word hides emotion. Everyone feels it: the awe, the disbelief, the fragile pride. It's hard to describe what it means to look back at everything you've ever known and see it all at once. Mountains, oceans, storms, each a brushstroke on a living canvas. You imagine the wind still moving through the trees, the tide still breathing against the shore, as if Earth continues to whisper lullabies to those who left. Weightlessness brings with it a childlike freedom. You release your grip on the straps and drift, slow and deliberate, through the cabin. Each movement feels poetic, an echo of swimming through invisible water. You touch a window, and your reflection meets the dark beyond. For a fleeting second, you don't recognize yourself. The person staring back is both human and something else, a creature caught between worlds, carried by fire into silence. It's beautiful. It's haunting. Outside, the rocket shell falls away, tumbling like forgotten armor. The sight is almost tender, pieces of home returning to the sky they came from. Through the window, you watch fragments burn faintly in the upper atmosphere, their glow swallowed by dawn. The earth glitters softly beneath, unbothered, eternal. Somewhere down there, morning has begun. Somewhere, the ocean sighs against its shores, unaware that a few small travelers have slipped beyond its reach. Inside, everything feels slower now. The heartbeat of the mission has steadied. Screens glow in soft hues, instruments blink like distant stars. You take a long breath, feeling the recycled air fill your lungs. It smells metallic, sterile, different yet comforting in its precision. The absence of gravity brings an odd stillness to thought, as if even your mind has begun to float. You begin to understand that space is not just a place, but a sensation, a slow unfolding of quiet. You think back to the last morning on Earth. The sound of coffee being poured. The feel of wind brushing against your cheek. The way people hugged, not with words, but with a kind of knowing. The launch pad had smelled of fuel and salt air, but beneath it all was human breath, human warmth. That memory lingers, glowing faintly in the dark like an ember that refuses to fade. It becomes your first tether to home. The capsule's rotation aligns perfectly, and Earth drifts into view again, not beneath you now, but beside you. The sun peeks over its edge, casting a bright halo that makes the ocean sparkle like liquid light. It's overwhelming, this beauty. You find yourself whispering thanks to the silence, to the stars, to the smallness that suddenly feels infinite. Each breath feels sacred, each heartbeat deliberate. There's no noise here, only rhythm. The radio crackles with ground control's voice, distant, formal, grounding. It feels good to hear human speech echo through the vastness. Each syllable is a thread, connecting you back to the world of gravity and sound. Yet even as you respond, you realize the distance has grown too great for words to bridge entirely. You are still heard, still known, but no longer entirely of Earth. That truth settles quietly, like dust on glass. In the stillness, you take another long look. The planet spins slowly, its clouds drifting in soft spirals. Lightning flashes deep within a storm, like a heartbeat inside the sky. From here, the violence and beauty of weather look the same, both part of a grand, wordless rhythm. You realize how much Earth endures, how much it gives, how easily it's taken for granted. And yet, even from this height, it feels like it's calling you back. Every part of this journey feels like both a departure and a return. You've left the ground, yes, but something deeper tells you you've only moved closer to understanding it. The way life clings to that fragile blue, the way everything interlocks with everything else. It's humbling. The vast dark surrounding you isn't empty, it's alive with quiet, ancient light. And Earth, for all its noise, remains the single glowing heartbeat in the silence. The thought of goodbye no longer feels final. It becomes softer, more like a pause than an ending. You begin to understand that leaving home is never about escape. It's about perspective. From here, every border vanishes, every difference dissolves. The whole of humanity becomes one fragile, shimmering sphere suspended in dark. And somehow, that truth feels like a promise, that no matter how far you go, home never truly leaves you. The capsule hums with quiet power as the orbit stabilizes. Systems lock into place, the world continues to spin below. The mission has begun. But before turning to the tasks, you steal one last, lingering glance at Earth, so small, so impossibly alive. You press your hand against the glass, as if touch alone could reach across the vacuum. And in that still, wordless moment, liftoff feels less like a departure and more like a whisper of belonging carried into the stars. The engines have long since gone silent, leaving only the soft hum of systems and the distant rhythm of your own heartbeat. Out here, sound loses meaning. There's no wind, no echo, no background murmur of life. The silence isn't empty, it's full, like the deep inhale before a whispered secret. Space stretches in every direction, black and endless, yet comforting in its stillness. You drift gently, tethered not to ground or sky, but to motion itself. It feels like the world has stopped, yet you continue, gliding through eternity's calm corridor. The first thing you notice about space is not its darkness, but its texture. It feels vast and soft, like a quiet ocean with no tide. Light behaves differently here. It doesn't scatter or shimmer, it simply exists, clean, sharp, pure. Stars don't twinkle, they burn steady and clear, each one an unblinking reminder of distance. Your eyes adjust slowly, tracing constellations you once knew, now sharper, almost too real. You think of ancient travelers who mapped these same points from Earth, never knowing they'd one day be seen from above. The spacecraft moves in silence, gliding through the black like a lantern adrift in deep water. Every shift, every gentle correction feels like a heartbeat of the machine, smooth, patient, methodical. You float beside a window, watching sunlight pour across the hull, so bright it seems to erase color. There's no sense of direction anymore. Up and down have become suggestions. Only motion and stillness remain. This, you realize, is the quiet road of space, an invisible path drawn by gravity and trust. Time loses its edges here. Minutes and hours blend together, untethered from sunrise and sunset. You measure moments by the rotation of the ship, the passing shadow of Earth across the viewport, the whisper of air recyclers. The body adjusts, but the mind lingers between worlds. Somewhere deep inside, part of you is still grounded, still hearing wind, still smelling rain. Another part has already begun to drift into this silent rhythm, learning to move slowly, to breathe gently, to exist without hurry. The stars become companions. Each one a point of quiet light, each one older than imagination. You find yourself staring at them the way you once stared at campfires, mesmerized, reflective, lost in thought. They seem to hum, though you know it's only in your mind. In their glow, you sense stories older than humankind, patterns that guided sailors, inspired poets, and pulled dreamers into wonder. Here, in their unbroken watch, you feel small but never insignificant. Inside the capsule, everything feels deliberate. Every click, every motion is measured. The air is dry, metallic, recycled 1,000 times, yet precious. Floating becomes natural now, an instinct. You move with small gestures, conserving energy, letting the environment cradle you. The noise of fans and instruments becomes a lullaby. You realize that this journey isn't just about distance, it's about surrender. Letting go of gravity means learning to let go of control. Through the viewport, you watch Earth slip further into the distance. Its blues deepen, its clouds stretch into soft spirals. Soon it's no longer a landscape but a symbol, the place where all noise comes from. The more it shrinks, the more you hear your thoughts clearly. You begin to understand why explorers spoke of space as spiritual. The silence is not lonely, it's sacred. It makes you listen not outward, but inward. When the sun rises in space, it does so without warning. No gradual glow, no dawn's whisper, just sudden brilliance. The cabin floods with light, sharp and golden, touching every surface like fire. You shield your eyes, marveling at how clean it feels, how absolute. Shadows vanish, then return as the ship turns. Night follows day within minutes, and then day again. Out here, you orbit through endless cycles of light and dark, neither belonging to either. It's strangely peaceful. Meals are quiet affairs. Pouches, tools, the slow motion of hands adjusting to weightlessness. Even laughter sounds different, softer, thinner, as though the air itself is hesitant to carry it. But laughter still comes. Humans have a way of filling silence with warmth. Between tasks, you catch a crewmate smiling at nothing in particular, just staring into the glow of the instrument panel, lost in thought. The road of space seems endless, but shared silence makes it human. Sometimes, you close your eyes and just float. The hum of life support becomes a steady rhythm, like the ocean's pulse. In those moments, you feel suspended between breaths, neither fully awake nor asleep. You think of the journey ahead, of planets waiting like distant dreams, of moons circling in quiet devotion. You realize that travel through space is not movement through distance, but movement through awareness. It changes how you see everything, including yourself. The quiet road teaches patience. There's no rushing here, no shortcut. Every motion, every orbit, every turn of the stars reminds you that time is not an enemy but a companion. You begin to measure it differently, not by clocks, but by heartbeats, by glances, by thought. You begin to feel what ancient astronauts described, that floating between worlds feels like being inside eternity itself. Looking outward, you spot a meteor trail, a brief, bright streak slicing through the darkness. It vanishes almost as soon as it appears, leaving behind only the thought of motion. It reminds you how fragile everything is, how fleeting. Yet even that brief flare feels monumental against the backdrop of stillness. You imagine it whispering through the void, a spark carrying memory across the infinite. When night returns, though night means little here, the cabin lights dim. Stars fill the windows like scattered diamonds. You let your eyes wander, finding familiar patterns. Orion, Lyra, Cassiopeia. Shapes that once felt far now feel like neighbors. They don't twinkle here, they burn constant and calm. You feel them pressing softly on your consciousness, an ancient kind of company. The road of space, you realize, is never empty. There are moments when your mind plays tricks. The vastness outside begins to feel like a presence, patient, observing. You sense it in the stillness, not threatening, but profound. It's as if space is aware of you, curious about your fragile heartbeat crossing its endless dark. The thought doesn't scare you. It comforts you. You understand that existence is not about boundaries, but about belonging, even here. The hum of the ship changes slightly as systems shift power. You check readings, record data, but your movements have grown slower, almost meditative. Every action feels sacred, a ritual of survival, a conversation between human hands and machine heart. This is what it means to travel the quiet road, to trust technology as an extension of will, to believe that silence can carry you safely forward. Sleep comes differently out here. You drift into dreams that feel weightless too, of oceans, of clouds, of the hum of insects in summer fields. You wake disoriented, unsure if you're still dreaming. The stars outside haven't moved. Neither has the feeling of peace that fills the cabin. You realize that, even in rest, you are still moving, still part of a larger rhythm that never stops. You start writing small notes to yourself, fragments of thought floating like satellites in your mind. Remember how quiet it feels. Don't forget the color of home. The silence is not absence, it's invitation. Each note becomes a kind of anchor, tying you gently to the part of you that still remembers what it's like to stand on solid ground. As the ship continues, you catch sight of the moon, silver, vast, carved in shadow and light. It's so near and yet unreachable in this moment, glowing like memory itself. The craters look soft from this distance, the light pouring across them like milk. You remember humanity's first steps there, footprints frozen in dust. The moon feels like a milestone, a whisper that the road continues beyond what's visible. You think about how Earth and the moon dance together, locked forever in their slow orbit. The image fills you with calm. Everything moves, yet everything remains. That's the lesson space keeps repeating, that stillness and motion are the same thing, seen from different perspectives. The road is quiet because it doesn't need to speak. It simply is. Each passing hour deepens your understanding of solitude. It's not loneliness, it's presence. Out here, every thought echoes longer, every feeling stretches wider. You begin to understand yourself in new ways, stripped of noise, stripped of gravity, reduced to essence. The quiet becomes a teacher, patient and infinite. Eventually, you stop searching for sound. You start to listen to silence instead. It has texture, layers, a rhythm of its own. You can almost feel it breathing with you. The quiet road of space is not a path through emptiness, it's a journey through being. Every pulse, every shimmer, every distant light reminds you, even in the stillness, you are part of something vast, alive, and beautifully awake. The days have blended into a long, steady glide through deep blackness. The engines rest now, silent and cold, their work done for the moment. The ship drifts in quiet precision, guided by invisible mathematics that curve across the void. Through the window, the stars no longer seem random, they move subtly as the ship rotates, each one sliding past like a slow river of light. The silence outside feels thicker now, more certain, as though the universe has drawn a blanket over everything but motion and thought. You are between worlds, sailing the corridor that lies beyond all maps. Earth is a dot behind you, small and blue, while the next planet, a faint, ruddy point of promise, shimmers ahead. There's nothing in between, and yet, it feels full. The emptiness has depth here. You can almost feel the weight of distances pressing softly against the ship, the invisible currents of gravity tugging at your path. Out here, space isn't void, it's alive with quiet energy, unseen but constant. The sun still reigns in the distance, its light stretched thin, pale gold now instead of fierce white. It bathes the spacecraft in soft radiance, highlighting every ridge and panel, every trace of human touch on a machine that carries so much faith. Shadows move gently along the interior walls as the ship spins, mimicking the slow rhythm of a heart. Even this far from home, light keeps finding its way inside, patient, deliberate, reminding you that warmth endures. Each orbit, each correction, feels like a dance with gravity. The ship follows invisible lines, responding to subtle forces that never sleep. Computers whisper equations, engines hum in brief bursts to steady the path, and you can feel every shift, like a pulse beneath your feet. The sensation is oddly reassuring, a reminder that motion is life, even out here where everything seems still. Between the planets, you learn to trust movement you can't always feel. Through the windows, You catch glimpses of distant planets, small, steady, glowing softly. Venus, pale and smooth, hides behind veils of cloud. Mars flickers with its rust-red glow, a beacon of old dreams. Beyond that, Jupiter waits, immense and faintly golden. Each one feels like a promise of arrival, a signpost along the infinite road. You realize that, in space, travel isn't measured by miles, but by the slow gathering of wonder. The stars no longer feel like pinpricks, they're companions now. Some drift by in clusters, others hang steady, brilliant and cold. You've begun to sense their variety, the subtle hues of age, the faint differences in brightness, the long, invisible stories they carry. You wonder which ones have worlds circling them, which might cradle life, which might hold their own quiet travelers looking outward as you do now. The thought feels endless, but gentle. Inside the cabin, life has found its rhythm. The constant hum of air systems, the faint vibration of panels, the muted exchanges of voices all merge into a kind of quiet song. Every sound has purpose, every silence feels deliberate. Floating through the narrow corridors, you catch your reflection, a face both familiar and new. Space does that. It stretches your sense of time until you can't quite tell who you were when you left or who you're becoming now. Days pass, though the concept of day has lost meaning. You track time by sunlight patterns, by the gentle rotation of the ship. Sleep comes in brief, dreamless spans. The mind settles into a kind of drifting. Awareness, unhurried and calm. You've stopped checking clocks. You've stopped counting distances. Between planets, patience becomes the only true measure of progress. You learn to wait, not as an act of endurance, but as an act of peace. Outside, the darkness deepens, yet it feels warmer now, not hostile, not empty, just infinite. You watch particles of cosmic dust shimmer faintly as they catch the sunlight, glowing for a heartbeat before disappearing again. Each one is ancient, older than planets, older than thought. They swirl past the ship like soft snow in slow motion. It's easy to lose yourself in that sight, the universe breathing in dust and light. Communication with Earth grows quieter, delayed by distance. Each message takes longer to arrive, each reply more patient. When voices do come through, they sound faint, like echoes of home carried across a canyon. You listen closely, smiling at familiar tones distorted by time and space. It's strange, the farther you go, the more you appreciate the fragile miracle of a single word reaching through the void. You start to sense the pull of the planets before you see them. Gravity whispers first, subtle and certain, guiding your path like an unseen tide. The instruments show the tiniest variations, and soon the body feels them too, a soft pressure, a reminder that worlds are waiting. The emptiness between them suddenly seems alive with unseen bridges, as though every planet calls out to the next in a language of motion. There are moments when you turn off the cabin lights and let the stars fill every surface. Their glow reflects off your suit, off the curved glass of the window, until it feels as if you are made of the same substance as them, light folded into human form. Floating there, you understand what ancient poets meant by eternity. It's not endless time, it's this feeling, the quiet certainty that you are part of something vast and harmonious. Even mundane tasks take on a quiet beauty. Checking systems, adjusting trajectory, logging data, each action feels like tending a fragile garden in the dark. You find comfort in precision, in the careful rhythm of survival. The road between planets is long, but it's never meaningless. Every click of a switch, every recalibration, is part of a conversation with the universe, a slow dialogue of trust and adaptation. When the ship crosses the invisible threshold between orbits, a subtle shift occurs. You feel lighter, then heavier, though no force is visible. The stars seem to rearrange themselves, as if acknowledging a milestone passed. It's a reminder that progress in space is often invisible, that movement can happen quietly, without spectacle. The universe doesn't announce your arrival, it simply accepts it. Sometimes, during quiet hours, you think about gravity not as a force but as a memory, a reminder of belonging. It connects everything, binds every planet and moon, every human heart and molecule of air. You realize that even out here, drifting between worlds, you are never truly separate. Every motion, every orbit, is part of that grand invisible web holding everything together. The longer you travel, the more you learn to see motion differently. It's not speed that matters here, but direction. Out here, velocity feels like stillness stretched over time. You are always moving, yet never rushing. The planets ahead grow slightly larger with each passing day, yet the change is imperceptible until you look back and realize how far you've come. Space teaches perspective, gently, endlessly. The sunlight fades as the ship moves farther from the inner planets. It's softer now, tinted with gold and blue, filtered by distance. The panels outside shimmer faintly under its touch. You watch as shadows grow longer inside the cabin, deep and still. Darkness here doesn't mean absence, it means rest. It wraps around you, patient and quiet, like the slow exhale of creation itself. Sometimes you catch a glimpse of a comet, a pale ribbon of ice and dust trailing across the stars. Its path is ancient, looping endlessly around the sun, repeating a story written long before humanity began. You watch it drift by, luminous and silent, and you feel a strange kinship. Both you and the comet are travelers, drawn by motion, guided by light, destined to wander through the endless dark. You begin to realize that the journey between planets is its own kind of home. There's comfort in repetition, the same hums, the same slow drift, the same patterns of light and shadow. Life adapts. You stop longing for arrival and start finding beauty in the journey itself. Space teaches that meaning doesn't live in destinations, but in the small moments that fill the distance between them. The planets ahead shimmer more clearly now, pale crescents against the dark. The sensors whisper of their gravity, their thin atmospheres, their slow rotations. You imagine the landscapes waiting there, deserts of red dust, oceans frozen in time. Skies painted with strange moons. Each world carries a mystery, a rhythm, a voice. Soon you will hear them more clearly. For now, you drift closer, quietly listening. You feel time as a texture, smooth, unbroken, circular. The ship glides, systems breathe, and you do the same. You've learned to exist in rhythm with the void. You've learned that silence isn't absence, it's balance. Between planets, you're not lost. You're simply part of the great pause between heartbeats, the universe itself inhaling before it speaks again. And as you watch the faint crescent of the next world grow brighter in the distance, you understand what it means to cruise between planets. It's not a voyage through emptiness, but a slow passage through wonder. Every second stretches like music. Every star hums its soft note. The quiet road continues, patient, vast, and endlessly alive. The deeper you travel, the quieter the universe becomes. It's not an absence of sound, but something greater, a silence that feels alive, vast, and infinitely patient. The ship drifts through a darkness so complete that even thought seems to move slower, softer. Outside the windows, there is no horizon, no boundary, just an ocean of black velvet scattered with steady points of light. The hush of deep space isn't frightening, it's enveloping. It feels like being held by something ancient, something that has always been waiting. Every movement inside the ship feels magnified against the stillness beyond. The faint click of a switch, the soft inhale of breath, the distant murmur of systems cycling, each sound becomes a world in itself. You become aware of how loud the human body is, how alive it sounds when surrounded by infinite quiet. Even your heartbeat seems to echo faintly, pulsing against the silence like a private rhythm meant to reassure you that you still exist, that you still belong to something living. Looking through the window, The stars appear sharper than ever. They do not flicker here. They are solid, unwavering. Their light feels older than time, reaching across unimaginable distances to find you. Some are faint whispers of color, pale blue, deep red, white as frost. Others burn like thoughts that never fade. They hang in silence, neither approaching nor retreating, only existing with calm persistence. In that stillness, you begin to sense the eternity that the ancients once tried to name. Time, in this part of space, ceases to be a thing you can measure. It stretches, folds, and sighs around you. Minutes become hours, hours dissolve into something softer, something beyond counting. You sleep, you wake, and the view never changes, or maybe it changes so slowly that the mind can't catch it. You stop waiting for moments to pass. You start existing inside them, learning to float not just through air but through time itself. Sometimes, when you turn off all the lights, the stars seem close enough to touch. Their glow spills faintly through the window, painting soft shapes across your hands. You imagine reaching out, brushing your fingers against light that left its star before humanity began to speak. It's humbling, knowing that every photon is an echo of an ancient moment, a story still in motion, still unfolding long after its beginning. The hush of deep space makes every particle feel sacred. The ship glides without sound, propelled by momentum and trust. Every motion is invisible, yet deliberate. You can't feel acceleration here, only the steady continuation of purpose. Sometimes, when you close your eyes, it feels like floating inside a thought. The boundary between machine and being blurs. You and the vessel move as one, two quiet travelers slipping through the black, guided by mathematics and instinct. The silence between each heartbeat feels infinite. Inside, the air hums faintly with circulation, the only true sound left. It's a fragile thing, this loop of breath and life, sustained by systems that never sleep. You find comfort in its predictability. Every hiss of oxygen feels like a lullaby. In deep space, survival becomes a song of constancy, a quiet, rhythmic devotion to continuity. You begin to realize that the hush is not empty. It's the sound of balance, of everything existing precisely as it should. Outside the ship, starlight dances across the hull, reflecting in slow-moving waves as the craft spins gently. You watch the faint shimmer travel along metal like a sigh of light, then fade into shadow. It's hypnotic, a soft, silent pulse that feels like the heartbeat of the universe itself. The further you drift, the more you sense that silence is not the absence of life but its most intimate form. The cosmos doesn't need to speak, its stillness is its language. You think about how strange it is that the mind can grow used to infinity. What once overwhelmed you now feels like home. The stars no longer intimidate, they comfort. The dark no longer hides, it reveals. You begin to see patterns in everything, the slow rhythm of motion, the steady cycles of light and shadow, the predictable hum of your instruments. There's peace in repetition, in knowing that the universe doesn't rush, that eternity moves at its own patient pace. When the sun appears, even as a distant spark, its light feels miraculous. It pierces the void, spilling gold across panels and glass. You watch it stretch across the cabin, soft and weightless, before fading again into blue shadow. In that brief glow, warmth returns, memory returns, earth returns. But as soon as the sun vanishes behind the hull, the hush closes in once more, not oppressive, but protective. Like the quiet of deep sleep after long thought. Sometimes, you think you can hear space itself. Not in sound, but in feeling, a faint, slow vibration beneath everything, too low for instruments to measure. It's like the universe breathing, or perhaps your own mind reaching out to fill the silence. You wonder if all travelers feel it, that subtle hum of existence, that whisper that says, you are still part of this. In deep space, The boundary between imagination and truth blurs into something beautifully uncertain. Dreams come differently here. They're slower, deeper, washed in dark colors. Sometimes they don't feel like dreams at all, but memories from another existence, oceans, wind, the murmur of voices. You wake disoriented, unsure where you are, and then the stars remind you. The hush is always there to greet you, patient and unchanged. It becomes like a heartbeat of the cosmos itself, steady and eternal. Your thoughts start to move slower too. You find yourself pausing between words, between ideas, letting them drift before catching them again. There's no urgency here, no reason to rush a thought into being. Even communication feels sacred. Every message sent through the void carries weight, a fragile ripple of sound breaking through the infinite quiet. It reminds you that silence doesn't erase connection, it deepens it. At times, you notice faint bursts of light in the distance, tiny flashes, almost invisible. Cosmic rays striking the senses, particles born from distant stars long dead. They arrive like whispers, brief and delicate. You imagine them as messages, scattered fragments of the universe saying hello. In deep space, everything feels personal. Every flicker of light feels meant for you, and every silence feels like a question waiting patiently for its answer. The deeper the journey takes you, the more you realize that. The hush of space has its own rhythm. It's not constant, it swells and fades with your awareness. Some moments feel so still that you can hear your own pulse in your ears. Others feel vast, infinite, layered with invisible sound. It's as if the cosmos hums in frequencies beyond human perception, too slow, too wide, too ancient for the senses to comprehend. When you think about the people who first dreamed of this, the scientists, the poets, the wanderers who looked up, you understand what they were reaching for. Not noise, not conquest, but this, the moment when silence becomes communion. The hush of deep space is the sound of understanding that you're part of something immense, and that it doesn't need to be loud to be alive. In the rare moments of communication, when Earth's voice arrives faint through static, it feels strange, too human, too sudden. You listen to it with reverence, almost caution. It's comforting, yes, but also fragile, like hearing someone speak underwater. The hush around it makes the words shimmer and dissolve. You answer softly, as though not to disturb the silence that holds you both. You begin to notice your own breathing more often, how slow it has become, how steady. Each inhale feels like drawing in part of the universe, each exhale a small offering back to it. You imagine the air cycling endlessly through the ship, through your lungs, through the filters, a quiet proof that even here, life persists in loops of motion and care. The hush listens to you breathe and answers in stillness. You start to think of silence as a companion, not a void. It doesn't judge, doesn't rush, doesn't demand. It simply shares space with you, unchanging, infinite. There's a tenderness in that constancy. The hush becomes a teacher, one that speaks not with words, but with patience. It shows you that peace isn't found in stillness alone, but in surrendering to it fully. Sometimes, as you drift through the cabin, you forget that the universe outside is deadly. It doesn't feel hostile anymore, it feels sacred. Every star feels like an altar, every stretch of black like a hymn. The hush carries you through it all, weightless and unbroken. You begin to wonder if silence was the first language ever spoken, and if all creation still remembers it. You look out at the stars again and imagine the space between them not as distance, but as breath, the universe inhaling and exhaling across millennia. You are floating in that breath, part of its rhythm, carried by its pulse. The hush isn't something you pass through, it's something you become part of. It's not around you anymore, it's within you. And as the ship continues through the endless dark, you realize the truth. Deep space is not silent at all. It sings, but its song is so slow, so vast, so ancient, that only stillness can hear it. You close your eyes, listen deeply, and feel the hush move through you like light through glass. And in that boundless quiet, for the first time, you understand what it means to truly rest. 4 days, the view had been the same, stars scattered across the velvet dark, the ship gliding in an endless stillness. Then, slowly, something began to change. A faint glow appeared ahead, almost imperceptible at first, like a soft bruise of color against the black. It grew with every passing hour, deepening from pale amber to rich honeyed gold, until it became undeniable, the first hint of Jupiter, the sleeping giant of the solar system, waking on the horizon of your journey. It begins not as a shape, but as a feeling. The instruments detect its pull before the eyes can see it. Gravity murmurs through the hull, a gentle persuasion from a world so vast that it bends not only space but time around itself. You can't yet see the planet, but you feel it in your bones, the slow gathering of mass and presence. It is like approaching a mountain in the dark. The air changes, the light shifts, and even silence becomes thicker, more aware. And then, through the small observation window, color begins to bloom. Not a static ball, but a living ocean of clouds swirling in patterns that seem almost deliberate. Bands of amber, ivory, ochre, and crimson sweep across its face like brushstrokes on a canvas too large for imagination. Jupiter is not a world that hides. It fills the window entirely, a storm given shape, a breathing monument to motion and chaos. You feel impossibly small before it. As you draw nearer, the details sharpen. You see storms within storms, vast cyclones large enough to swallow Earth whole, drifting with a kind of majestic calm. Lightning flickers deep within the clouds, illuminating their folds from the inside like thoughts moving through a dream. The great red spot, older than recorded history, turns slowly beneath you, a patient eye gazing upward through centuries of turbulence. You realize that even chaos can be graceful when viewed from far enough away. The ship hums softly, adjusting its course. You float toward the window, barely breathing. The closer you get, the more you see how alive Jupiter's atmosphere is. There are no edges, no still points, only motion, endless and hypnotic. The clouds twist and unroll like ribbons caught in a slow wind, each hue blending into the next. It's not noise but rhythm, a song without sound, written in vapor and light. The hush of deep space has met its counterpoint here, motion vast enough to be silent. The gas giant's gravity reaches out, tugging at your path, bending it slightly. The ship compensates automatically, its thrusters whispering in faint bursts. You imagine being outside, suspended in that void, with Jupiter's entire bulk filling your sky. It would be like hovering before a god's heart, hearing it beat through storms and radiation. The planet's beauty isn't gentle, it's immense, overwhelming. It's the kind of beauty that commands stillness, not through peace, but through awe. Sunlight hits the planet's rim, turning its upper atmosphere into gold. The light doesn't reflect sharply as it would off rock. Instead, it diffuses softly, spilling into waves of creamy glow. It's like watching sunrise through layers of silk. Shadows stretch across the swirling clouds, revealing depth you could fall into forever. You realize that here, even light behaves differently, slowed, softened, as though it too must bow to Jupiter's immense presence. You remember the myths, Zeus, Jove, the thunder god whose power shook the heavens. Looking at this world now, the stories make sense. This planet radiates authority, not through force, but through scale. You understand why ancient eyes worshipped it. Here is a world that could crush you without malice, whose storms could erase cities without intention. Yet it feels less like a monster and more like a giant sleeping peacefully, its dreams spilling across the vacuum as colors and storms. From this distance, you can't help but wonder what lies beneath those endless clouds. There is no solid surface waiting, only layers upon layers of gas, pressure, and heat. The deeper you go, The denser it becomes, hydrogen turning into metallic liquid, light bending under gravity. It's a place no human could ever stand upon. And yet, standing isn't what Jupiter invites. It invites wonder, surrender, the quiet acceptance that some things are not meant to be touched, only witnessed. As you orbit closer, you pass through a faint halo, the planet's ring system, delicate and ghost-like. Tiny shards of ice and dust glimmer in sunlight, forming an almost invisible veil around the giant. Each particle catches the light briefly, flickers, then vanishes. It's a whisper compared to Saturn's grandeur, but its subtlety feels more intimate. These are fragments of moons broken long ago, silent reminders that even giants cannot escape time's slow unraveling. The view changes constantly. One moment, the planet glows with shades of copper and rose. The next, it darkens to bruised indigo and storm gray. You watch patterns emerge and vanish within minutes. It feels like watching the thoughts of the universe take shape, fleeting, powerful, mysterious. The ship's instruments record endlessly, but you know that no data can capture what your eyes see. The feeling of immensity can't be translated into numbers, it must be felt in the quiet of your chest. You begin to notice the moons, small dots gliding near the planet like attendants orbiting a sleeping monarch. Io burns with volcanic heat, its surface scarred by constant eruptions. Europa gleams smooth and pale, a frozen mystery hiding oceans beneath its crust. Ganymede and Callisto shimmer in the distance, vast and ancient. Together they move in precise rhythm, a celestial dance choreographed by gravity and time. Each one feels like a world with its own story to tell. Your ship's path curves around Jupiter's magnetic field, an invisible ocean of charged particles roaring with unseen energy. Instruments flicker and hum as radiation brushes the hull, whispering reminders of the planet's might. You think about how small the human presence is here, a fragile spark surrounded by titans. And yet, it feels right, this meeting of human curiosity and cosmic scale, both bound by the same quiet hunger to exist and to understand. Looking down again, you spot the faint shimmer of auroras near Jupiter's poles. They move not in thin curtains like Earth's, but in immense rings of electric fire, colors bending and dancing as magnetic storms collide with charged gas. They light up the atmosphere in waves, rippling across thousands of kilometers in seconds. Watching them, you can almost hear the hum of the planet's pulse. The silence outside feels electric, alive. The longer you observe, the more your perception changes. The storms no longer seem violent, they seem patient, eternal. Each spiral of cloud is part of a rhythm too vast to measure. You realize that Jupiter doesn't destroy, it transforms. It takes motion, gravity, heat, and time, and turns them into beauty. The Great Red Spot is not a scar, but an ancient eye that has seen generations of stars come and go. It's a memory the universe refuses to erase. Your thoughts drift to Earth, small, fragile, quiet. How tiny it must look from here, hidden among these grand orbits. And yet, Jupiter reflects something of home too. Its storms, its cycles, its energy, they mirror life itself, endlessly turning, endlessly renewing. It makes you feel both insignificant and infinite at once. The same laws that govern this giant govern your heartbeat. In that realization lies a strange comfort. The ship glides through Jupiter's shadow. For a moment, all light disappears. The darkness is so deep that even stars vanish. Then, slowly, the planet's rim catches the sun again, and a thin arc of gold appears, expanding like a sunrise in silence. It feels ceremonial, as though you've been allowed to witness the world waking from sleep. The first sight of the giant in dawn light feels almost holy. You stay there, still and wordless, afraid to break the spell. Jupiter's immense beauty doesn't just lie in its size, but in its endurance. Its storms have raged for centuries, Yet the planet remains whole, balanced. It feels eternal, yet ever-changing. You begin to see time differently, not as something that moves forward, but as something that circles, that deepens. Jupiter is proof that chaos can sustain harmony if given enough space, enough patience. Sometimes, when you drift away from the window, you still see it behind your eyes. The whirling bands, the soft golden storms, the flash of distant lightning, they linger like after-images of a dream. It's as if the planet imprints itself upon you, marking you quietly as one of its witnesses. Long after you leave, you know that memory will hum within you, deep and steady, like the echo of a planet's heartbeat. The instruments continue their work, collecting data, sending signals, tracing invisible paths. But your mind drifts, no longer focused on numbers. You think of how many travelers might one day stand here, seeing what you see, how many eyes will find awe in this same vastness. Space doesn't rush, it waits. The giant will still be here, turning in silence, long after names are forgotten. As you prepare to shift orbit, the view shifts once more. Sunlight floods the cabin, refracted by Jupiter's golden hues. The entire interior glows faintly, as if painted by the planet's reflection. You reach out your hand, and for a fleeting moment, you feel as if you could touch it, not the gas or clouds, but its essence. The quiet majesty of it. The proof that beauty does not always need to be small to be intimate. You take one last look before systems guide you toward the moons. Jupiter fills the entire view now, vast beyond comprehension, alive in silence. You whisper a wordless thanks, not to anything divine, but to existence itself, for letting you see this. And as you turn away, the planet lingers in your thoughts like a song you can't stop hearing. Its presence will follow you, patient and immense, through every mile of the journey ahead. And in the hush that returns afterward, you understand why the first sight of a giant is never just an image. It's a conversation with eternity, one that continues long after the eyes have closed. Jupiter is no longer just a world, it's a feeling, vast and steady, that moves quietly with you through the darkness, reminding you of how small and how infinite you truly are. The closer you drift toward Jupiter, the more its body fills your sky, a swirling expanse of motion that never ends. The planet isn't a sphere so much as a living sea, forever rolling and folding in on itself. You can see bands of color chasing one another around its girth, twisting, stretching, colliding. It's as though you're watching the breath of a god, each exhale forming storms larger than continents. The sheer scale leaves you hushed. There are no landmarks here, only movement, eternal and magnificent. From the window, the clouds look soft, almost painted, but the reality beneath them is a world of ferocity. Each pastel layer hides winds faster than sound, rivers of ammonia and hydrogen spinning in endless fury. You imagine diving into them, through amber mists and ivory whirls, falling endlessly through storm after storm. There would be no surface to meet, no ground to stop the descent, only denser skies pressing in, hotter and heavier, until all sense of direction vanishes. The great red spot looms on the horizon, immense and solemn. It rotates slowly, a centuries-old hurricane the size of Earth, tinted with crimson and rose. As the ship glides past it, you feel the tug of its gravity, the faint hum of turbulence even from this distance. The storm moves with such grace it almost seems alive, turning not in chaos, but in rhythm, like a heartbeat slowed by time. You can't look away. It feels as though the planet is watching you back. Cloud. Shadows stretch across the atmosphere like veils. Sunlight dances over their peaks, revealing towers of vapor rising dozens of kilometers high. Lightning flashes inside them, bright, silent bursts that illuminate the clouds from within, glowing blue-white before vanishing into darkness again. Each flash reminds you of a pulse, of thought, of energy woven through stillness. Jupiter's atmosphere isn't quiet, it whispers in colors and motion instead of sound. The ship's sensors read the data, but numbers can't capture what you see. Winds of unimaginable speed circle the planet, pulling with delicate precision at each layer. The upper atmosphere drifts like silk, slow and serene, while below it, chaos rages, a ballet of motion and heat. It's like watching music without hearing it. The harmony is in the flow itself, in the way each current feeds the next. There is order here, even in the wildness. As you orbit above the equatorial bands, the colors change constantly. Amber fades to ivory, ivory to ochre, ochre to deep rust. The hues ripple like watercolors mixing on wet paper. Each swirl feels ancient, crafted not by time but by eternity's patience. It makes you wonder if storms can dream, if they know how long they've turned, how long they've whispered across this world of clouds. The thought of descending into that atmosphere tempts and frightens you at once. Somewhere below, sunlight disappears completely, replaced by dim glows of electrical storms. The air would thicken into fog and then liquid, turning pressure into weight, crushing metal, bending light. Jupiter's depths are not a place for travelers. They're a cathedral for forces too vast to be seen up close, a sanctuary of motion and pressure where energy itself becomes substance. Every minute reveals new patterns. You see pale ovals forming and dissolving, storms merging into greater whirls, small tempests born from the edges of larger ones. It's an ecosystem of chaos, self-sustaining, self-renewing. The scale is humbling. On Earth, a storm ends when it exhausts itself. Here, storms feed one another, cycling endlessly, like ideas passed between generations of wind. You realize that nothing here truly dies, it transforms. There are moments when the planet feels almost serene. The upper clouds flatten into ribbons, glowing faintly under the distant sun. The colors soften, turning pearly and calm, like the surface of a sleeping ocean. But beneath that calm lies motion, always motion. It's the kind of peace that hides power, the quiet that comes not from stillness but from balance. You begin to sense that even chaos can find harmony when given enough space to breathe. The light of Jupiter is strange. It doesn't reflect cleanly like on rocky worlds. Instead, it diffuses and shimmers, trapped within endless vapors. It's like sunlight filtered through honey, warm, soft, eternal. The glow paints the cabin interior in faint gold, making your reflection shimmer across the glass. You catch your eyes staring back, small and awed, as if part of you can't believe the other part is here, floating beside this infinite sea. The data feeds from instruments continue to stream: temperature gradients, wind speeds, atmospheric pressure. You record them automatically, but your focus remains on the window. Science feels secondary here. This isn't just a world to study, it's a being to witness. The storms are its language, the clouds its breath, the light its expression. For a moment, you imagine the planet as a consciousness, slow, ancient, unbothered by time. As you pass near the terminator line, where day melts into night, the transformation is breathtaking. The clouds turn violet and deep blue, their edges rimmed with fire. Lightning becomes more visible, threading through the dark like veins of light. It's as if the planet dreams while half asleep, one side waking, the other sinking into quiet. The transition is so gradual, so graceful, it feels less like rotation and more like breathing. The storms near the poles appear different, more geometric, more precise. The gas seems to gather in perfect circles, as though guided by invisible hands. Some of the vortices form hexagonal patterns, their edges sharp and strange. You've seen this only in data before, but here it's real, living geometry in motion. It feels like nature experimenting with symmetry, painting perfection into chaos for no reason but beauty. There's an odd comfort in the rhythm of these storms. Watching them move, you start to see their logic, the way small eddies feed larger ones, the way energy flows but never wastes. It's like watching time itself recycle. Every rotation of the planet feels like a deep exhale, every lightning flash like a thought passing through an ancient mind. You start to understand, this world isn't in turmoil, it's in conversation with itself. The more you gaze, the more you sense the balance of opposites, light and dark, chaos and calm, creation and decay. Jupiter doesn't choose between them. It embodies both at once. In its clouds, destruction and beauty coexist without contradiction. It's a reflection of the universe's deeper truth, that everything that moves, survives, and everything that endures, changes. You find serenity in that realization, a quiet surrender to the rhythm of endless motion. You close your eyes and listen to the ship's gentle hum. Somewhere outside, winds thousands of kilometers wide are roaring without sound. You imagine what it would be like to be a molecule in that storm, spinning endlessly, carried upward, then down again, never resting, yet never lost. There's something eternal in that kind of existence, something pure. Perhaps the storms aren't rage at all, perhaps they are the planet's meditation. At times, the sunlight cuts across the atmosphere at an angle that turns everything golden white. The storms vanish into haze, the planet glows softly, and for a few fleeting moments, Jupiter looks peaceful, as though its heart has slowed, its breath evened. You know it's an illusion, a trick of light and distance, but it comforts you. Even the most powerful beings need to rest sometimes, even if only in appearance. Looking across the curve of the planet, you can see small shadows cast by its moons. Tiny dots move across the vast expanse, their dark outlines sliding slowly over the swirling surface. Each shadow seems impossibly fragile, yet distinct. It's a reminder that even in the presence of greatness, the small can still leave a mark. The thought stays with you, a quiet metaphor for the human journey itself. Far below, flashes of lightning scatter across the night side of the planet. They appear like heartbeat sparks beneath a translucent skin, brief but constant. You watch them in silence, mesmerized. It's a secret world down there, hidden under veils of vapor and gas. Somewhere in that stormy heart, energy hums, chemistry stirs, the raw materials of creation swirling together endlessly. It's chaos, yes, but it's also potential. Every pass reveals something new, a storm forming where there was none before, a band of color darkening subtly overnight. It reminds you that no moment is ever repeated here. The planet is never the same twice, it's always remaking itself, quietly, patiently. You begin to think of it less as a destination and more as a process, a breathing, evolving work of art painted by the hand of physics. When night fully falls again, the planet glows faintly from within. It emits more energy than it receives from the sun, a quiet furnace of hydrogen and helium burning beneath the clouds. The realization strikes you, Jupiter makes its own light. It doesn't just reflect, it gives. In the darkness, that feels like a revelation. Even giants have their inner fire, their secret warmth hidden beneath storms. You find yourself whispering without realizing it, small words of wonder that dissolve into the air. The silence feels sacred, and you don't want to disturb it. Jupiter seems to listen, its slow turning a kind of nod. You understand then that observation here is not an act of intrusion but communion. The storms do not resist your gaze, they invite it. They want to be seen, to be remembered, to remind life elsewhere of the vastness it came from. The ship drifts above the planet's day side once more, and the light returns like dawn. The storms shimmer in gold and rose, casting shadows into the depths. You stay by the window, unwilling to look away. You think of how long these clouds have turned, how they will keep turning long after you are gone. That thought doesn't bring sadness, but calm. Continuity itself is a kind of grace. As the orbit continues, you begin to sense your place within the dance, not as an outsider, but as a momentary observer in a timeless cycle. You're part of the story, even if only for an instant. The clouds below swirl on, uncaring, magnificent. You realize that you've spent your life seeking stillness, but the universe's peace lies in movement. The storms of Jupiter are not disorder, they are perfection expressed through motion. In that understanding, you finally exhale. The world of clouds and storms no longer feels foreign. It feels familiar, like something within yourself reflected outward. The endless churn, the flashes of light, the balance of chaos and calm, they all belong to the same rhythm that beats quietly inside you. Jupiter, in all its vastness, has become a mirror. And in its reflection, you see the gentle truth of existence, that even the fiercest storms can be beautiful when seen from afar. It begins as a vast swirl of color in the corner of your view, an immense storm turning endlessly, slow and deliberate, as though time itself moves differently inside it. The Great Red Spot. It's not just another feature of Jupiter, it's the planet's memory, a storm that has raged for centuries without rest. From orbit, it looks like a deep wound or a steady heartbeat, pulsing softly. Beneath clouds of ochre and cream, you watch it turning, patient and timeless, the eye of a world that never closes. The closer you drift, the more its color deepens, not merely red, but a mix of rose, rust, and sunset gold, layered like the pages of a story written by wind. Its edges blur into neighboring bands, where smaller storms are born and die in its wake. The red spot seems almost alive, aware of itself, a grand presence that has outlived empires and generations. You feel as if it's watching you back, not in malice, but in recognition. The planet's soul, staring quietly into space. No photograph could ever prepare you for the scale. The storm stretches wider than Earth itself, an ocean of motion suspended in sky. Its edges curl and twist, forming smaller vortices that dance like petals in a cosmic current. Inside, gases churn in silent violence, ammonia, hydrogen, and methane weaving together, forming hues that shimmer and shift with every shaft of sunlight. The eye moves slowly, yet it never stops. It's a monument not of destruction, but endurance. You can almost sense the energy beneath it, a deep hum that resonates through the hull of the ship. The sensors pick up pressure waves, turbulence patterns, and faint electromagnetic pulses that ripple outward like echoes of a distant heartbeat. This is no storm as you've ever known it, it's a world within a world, its own ecosystem of gravity and heat. Somewhere in that swirling abyss, particles collide endlessly, building energy that can never rest. As sunlight glides over the storm's rim, shadows move like liquid. The clouds near the top catch the light first, glowing in ribbons of amber and gold, while the depths below remain dark and secretive. The result is a hypnotic contrast, light and shadow locked in slow motion. You can almost imagine falling into it, spiraling gently downward through its tiers, never touching bottom, only sinking deeper into color and motion. You try to imagine what the air would feel like inside that storm. The winds, the heat, the endless downward pull. They say the pressure would crush any craft within minutes, that lightning arcs longer than mountains hide in those depths. Yet, in this distance, it feels serene. The red spot spins not like rage, but like breath, steady, cyclical, balanced. You begin to understand why it's lasted so long. It has learned how to sustain its own chaos. Scientists once thought it was fading, that one day the storm would vanish into Jupiter's endless bands. But each time, it persists, reshaping itself, shrinking slightly, then growing again. Like a heartbeat that refuses to still. You wonder if it remembers, if there's some continuity within its swirling gases, a persistence not just of motion, but of will. The universe often hides its wisdom in persistence, not in change. As you orbit above it, you can see other tempests circling nearby, smaller ovals spinning around the great one like satellites. They collide, merge, and disappear into its flow, feeding it energy. The red spot isn't solitary, it's a gathering, a living system that thrives by absorbing and transforming everything around it. It's like watching time feed upon itself, recycling endlessly, always becoming. You sense that it doesn't destroy, it integrates. The air outside glows faintly orange, filtered through the giant's reflected light. Even the ship seems tinted by Jupiter's palette now, as if the red spot is painting everything in its tone. It feels less like an object you're observing and more like a state you've entered. The boundary between observer and phenomenon blurs. You are part of the motion now, floating, watching, understanding that all things, large and small, are caught in their own orbit of change. When darkness comes, the storm transforms. Sunlight fades from its upper layers, revealing hidden lightning flashing deep inside. The bolts illuminate the swirling gases from within, turning the storm into a glowing, restless lantern. For a few seconds, it's as if the planet's heart is visible, beating beneath its skin. The red spot glows and then dims again, its pulse slow but steady. Watching it, you feel the same quiet rhythm within your own chest. From time to time, you glance away, only to find your eyes drawn back. There's something magnetic about it, the way it turns, the way it moves without urgency yet with endless intent. It's hypnotic, like staring into fire. You realize that the red spot doesn't just exist in space, it exists in time. It's been spinning since before telescopes were built, before cities filled the night with their glow, before human voices first spoke of the stars. You wonder what it's seen, how many storms have been born and died around it, how many nights have passed above it, how many travelers have looked upon it and felt the same or you feel now. It's strange, but you feel a kinship with this storm. You, too, are a temporary whirl of motion and thought in a vast silence. The difference is only scale. You spin through your days as it spins through centuries. The connection is oddly comforting. Jupiter rotates fast, a full spin every 10 hours, yet the red spot turns slowly within it, almost stubbornly refusing to hurry. It's as if it knows time means nothing when you've already endured ages. The smaller storms around it race by, brief and frantic, while it remains calm in its own massive rhythm. You think about how that mirrors life itself, the small moments rushing past while deeper currents move unbothered below. The colors deepen as you drift over its edge. Hints of violet, sienna, and wine red mingle beneath the cloud tops, forming textures that look like liquid marble. You can almost see the flow, heat rising, gas cooling, layers rolling over each other in perfect, slow choreography. The motion feels almost sentient. There's an intelligence in the way it organizes chaos, a wisdom older than words. It's not random, it's a conversation between gravity and temperature, spoken in swirls. Your instruments display endless data streams, wind speeds exceeding hundreds of kilometers per hour, thermal gradients, magnetic flux readings. Yet none of it captures the feeling of the view, the quiet weight of looking upon something that has outlasted civilizations. Numbers tell what it is, but not what it means. And meaning, out here, feels heavier than gravity. You realize that science can measure everything but the emotion of wonder. Passing near the storm's boundary, you notice how smooth the transition appears. One band feeds into the next, colors blending seamlessly, motion slipping from one direction to another like overlapping breaths. There's no sharp division, only flow. It feels like a visual metaphor for harmony, opposites coexisting, never truly colliding, just reshaping each other endlessly. The great red spot is not war, it's coexistence disguised as turbulence. When you look closely at the surrounding bands, you see them ripple with smaller eddies, like ripples around a massive whirlpool. Each tiny swirl mirrors the larger one, a fractal dance of repetition. The same pattern, echoed in infinite scales. The realization humbles you. The universe seems to love repeating itself, from galaxies to storms to thought. Everything, in some way, is a smaller version of something greater turning nearby. As the light shifts again, You see the upper haze begin to shimmer faintly, sunlight scattering off particles of ice and dust high above the storm. The faint glow softens its fierce outline, making it appear gentle, almost kind. You can't help but think how misunderstood chaos can be. Perhaps destruction is only creation seen too closely, before it's had time to settle into meaning. There's a piece to the red spot's persistence. It doesn't fight the forces that shape it, it becomes them. Every gust, every collision, every wave of energy is absorbed, redirected, used. The storm has mastered survival by surrender. It doesn't resist, it flows. Watching it, you feel that same lesson settling quietly inside you. There's strength not only in resistance, but in graceful endurance. The more you observe, the more you realize that nothing here is truly still. Even what seems motionless is only moving slower. Even silence vibrates faintly with energy. The red spot is simply the loudest whisper in an ocean of movement. You begin to feel a strange serenity in that realization that stillness is never real, only relative, and that peace is not absence of motion but balance within it. You imagine how it will look 1,000 years from now. Perhaps smaller, perhaps a different shade, perhaps gone. But even if it fades, its memory will remain in data, in eyes like yours that once gazed in awe, in the subtle patterns it inspired in thought and art. Nothing truly disappears, it transforms. Even storms, even planets, even people. The instruments hum, the cabin lights dim, and you continue your slow orbit. Below you, the storm continues its eternal turning. Its rhythm becomes part of the ship's heartbeat, part of your own. You realize that, in a way, every traveler who's looked at this spot has added to its story a shared silence between humanity and a planet of gas and time. As you drift away, the red spot shrinks to a single jewel set in the planet's endless bands. Its color fades to a faint blush, then to a memory. Yet its presence lingers, not just as sight, but as sensation. The great, slow red eye remains within you, unblinking, steady, reminding you that time can be vast and gentle at once. That even in the wildest storms, there is calm at the center. And as the stars reclaim the window, you feel a quiet truth settle deep inside. The great red spot isn't merely a storm on a planet. It's a mirror held up to existence itself, a reflection of endurance, transformation, and the infinite grace of motion that never truly ends. Out here, drifting beyond Jupiter's pale clouds, you begin to feel a quiet force pressing around you, unseen, soundless, yet endlessly present. It's not wind or gravity, but something subtler, magnetism. Jupiter's invisible shield, immense and alive, extends millions of kilometers into space, a cocoon woven from the planet's own electric heart. You can't see it, but your instruments can. It flickers in streams of data, humming with charged particles, bending light in ways only math can describe. The magnetosphere of Jupiter is the largest structure in the solar system after the Sun itself. If you could see it with your eyes, it would stretch far beyond even the orbit of Saturn. It's a vast bubble of magnetic energy, shaped by the planet's rapid spin and liquid metal core. Inside, electrons and ions race at incredible speeds, trapped and flung by invisible lines of force. To enter it is to step into a storm of ghosts' energy without form, dancing endlessly in the dark. When your ship passes deeper into the field, instruments begin to sing with faint static. Screens shimmer with interference, subtle pulses whisper across sensors. You realize that Jupiter's magnetic field is not silence, it has a voice, a rhythm, a pattern older than humanity itself. Scientists translate those electromagnetic signals into sound, and what emerges is haunting, a chorus of low, otherworldly tones, like distant thunder rolling through metal clouds. The field bends the solar wind like water around a stone, creating an invisible bow wave ahead of the planet. This deflection protects Jupiter's atmosphere from being stripped away, shielding it from the harsh radiation of the sun. Yet in doing so, it also builds up immense energy, an aura of power that arcs outward in glowing rings near the poles. The magnetic lines twist and shimmer, guiding particles toward the poles where they collide with the atmosphere in showers of light. Auroras bloom there, vast and eternal, painting the night side of Jupiter with ribbons of violet and blue. Unlike Earth's delicate northern lights, Jupiter's auroras never fade. They burn constantly, fed by the ceaseless current of the magnetosphere. From orbit, you can see them glowing like crowns, luminous halos spinning above the poles, marking the intersection of magnetism and air. They shimmer, pulsing to the rhythm of the giant's rotation, flickering like breath made visible. Io, the volcanic moon, dances at the edge of this field, caught in its electric web. As it moves through the magnetic lines, it generates currents that stream along invisible pathways toward Jupiter's poles. The result is a continuous electric connection, a lightning bridge between planet and moon. This current powers the auroras further, painting their edges with bursts of white fire. It's a relationship of motion and charge, a cosmic circuit that hums across hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Everywhere around you, radiation particles spin and flash, too fast to see but strong enough to destroy electronics if unshielded. The field is a paradox, protector and threat, guardian and storm. The ship's shielding hums constantly, absorbing the excess energy, deflecting particles with layers of magnetized plating. It feels like traveling through the heart of an electric storm that has no end, one that glows but never burns. Sometimes, the sensors detect faint flashes near the planet's limb, X-rays from high-energy collisions deep in the magnetosphere. Each one marks an impact between particle and gas, a miniature explosion in slow motion. The light travels out in ripples, invisible to human sight but radiant in its persistence. It's strange to think that the airless vacuum can still shimmer with such energy, that even darkness hums with hidden fire. The planet's spin feeds this entire system. As Jupiter turns, its magnetic field whips through space, dragging charged particles along with it. The motion builds electric currents strong enough to shape entire regions of space. It's like a spinning dynamo, generating order from chaos, structure from flow. You begin to realize how alive the giant truly is, not in flesh or thought, but in motion, in energy, in the continuous act of creating fields that hold the cosmos at bay. You imagine what it would be like to see this field with human eyes. Space would shimmer and bend, glowing faintly where particles stream like rivers of light. You'd see long curtains of plasma draping across the planet, rippling as the magnetic poles twist. The poles themselves would blaze like twin suns, their light spilling outward in electric waves. It would be both terrifying and beautiful, the aurora of a God-sized world. The magnetosphere also captures debris, bits of dust and ice from moons and comets, holding them in orbit. Some spiral inward slowly, burning up as they enter Jupiter's atmosphere. Others are cast outward again, flung into space by the planet's electric tides. The balance is delicate, like a dance between attraction and release. Each piece of matter finds its own rhythm within the field, moving not by choice, but by invisible design. The further your ship drifts, the more you sense its presence, not visually, but in feeling. It's like a vibration deep within the bones of the craft, a low, constant hum that resonates faintly in the air. You realize that you are inside something immense, something that moves not in distance but in influence. The magnetosphere isn't just around Jupiter, it is Jupiter, extended into the void, a kind of invisible body that touches the solar wind. Even light behaves differently here. Radio waves curve, signals distort, and instruments lose their bearings. The field bends their paths subtly, like a lens made not of glass but of magnetism itself. Communication becomes an act of patience, messages take longer, sometimes echoing faintly as they scatter along the field lines. It's as if Jupiter's presence warps not just space, but the rhythm of time. Your sensors pick up faint flickers of radio emissions, bursts of energy from the poles, each one a fingerprint of the planet's electric weather. When scientists first recorded these sounds decades ago, they thought them chaotic. But with time, patterns emerged. The emissions pulse in harmony with Jupiter's rotation, marking its unseen heartbeat. Even the most distant spacecraft can detect that steady rhythm, a reminder that this world is never truly silent. When you close your eyes, you can almost imagine the magnetosphere as music, a deep, resonant hum layered with shifting tones. Each current, each aurora, each particle flow contributes its note. Together they form a symphony that never stops playing, conducted by rotation and fed by sunlight. It's the song of magnetism, of light captured and released in infinite repetition. This shield doesn't only guard Jupiter. It also shapes its moons. The surfaces of Europa and Ganymede are scarred and charged by its radiation. Ganymede, uniquely, has a magnetic field of its own, caught within Jupiter's larger one, a magnetic moon inside a magnetic sea. Where their fields intersect, arcs of energy dance invisibly, rippling through space. These interactions are constant, like quiet conversations between bodies of gravity and current. Sometimes, bursts of solar energy crash into Jupiter's field, compressing it violently. Shockwaves ripple through the magnetosphere, lighting up the auroras in sudden flares. The system bends but never breaks, it absorbs the impact, then expands. Again. Watching it unfold, you see resilience written in plasma and light. Even when struck by chaos, the field restores itself, returning to balance through movement. At night, when the planet turns its dark face toward you, the auroras are brightest. They spiral and pulse, tracing the lines of magnetism across the poles. In the ship's silence, you watch them dance, knowing they will still be burning long after your journey ends. It feels less like observation and more like communion, a conversation between human curiosity and planetary power. There's a strange tenderness to it, this field of invisible strength. It reminds you that protection doesn't always need walls or weapons. Sometimes, it's built from motion, from unseen balance, from forces that yield rather than resist. Jupiter's magnetosphere bends with the storm of the sun, but it never breaks. It flows, adjusts, survives. As hours pass, your instruments trace the outer edges of the field. The boundary, the magnetopause, shifts constantly, breathing in and out with solar wind pressure. It's a living line, never fixed, expanding and contracting like a heartbeat. Space feels different here, charged with potential. Even the emptiness seems alive, filled with moving fields and changing light. It's humbling to realize that every planet carries some magnetic signature, even if faint. Earth's own field, though small, guards life with equal care. But Jupiter's is monumental, a cathedral of energy compared to Earth's gentle dome. It makes you wonder whether, in some cosmic way, magnetism is a kind of language of care, spoken in lines of force and auroras of light. When you turn your gaze outward, you see how far the magnetotail stretches, a vast streamer of magnetic energy flowing away from the sun, millions of kilometers long. It drifts through the dark like a ribbon, carrying particles deep into the outer solar system. It's astonishing that something so intangible can reach so far, shaping the very edge of space. Even after you pass beyond its reach, the field lingers in memory, a subtle static in your instruments, a faint hum in the ship's systems. It's as if Jupiter leaves its signature behind, an electric echo that refuses to fade. You realize that you've been inside something ancient and continuous, a shield that has existed since the planet's birth, guarding it silently while storms raged above. The deeper truth begins to settle in. Magnetism and light are not opposites but companions. One shapes the path of the other, one reveals the presence of the unseen. Jupiter's invisible shields are not walls of defense, but flows of connection between planet and moon, light and dark, energy and form. You drift within them like a thought in the mind of something vast. You think about how these fields will endure. Long after the storms fade, long after the clouds shift and the auroras flicker their last, the magnetic pulse will remain a memory written in the structure of space itself. Jupiter will keep whispering in light and current, marking its place in the cosmic rhythm. As you finally drift beyond the boundary, the static fades, the hum quiets, and the ship's sensors clear. The silence feels sharper now, emptier. Yet within that stillness, you carry a kind of understanding that even the unseen shapes the world, that even invisible shields can shine brighter than light. And you leave Jupiter's embrace knowing that, though your eyes could not see it, you have felt the vastness of its unseen hand. They appear first as faint glimmers beside the giant, each one small and steady, moving in its own curved rhythm. Against Jupiter's vastness, the moons look fragile, like beads of light caught in orbit, whispering through the void. But as your ship drifts closer, you begin to understand that these are not merely companions. They are worlds, each with its own history, each caught in a delicate balance of gravity and time. They circle the great planet like dancers around a flame, steady, silent, patient beyond imagination. Io moves fastest, darting close to the planet like a spark caught in wind. Beneath its smooth, golden crust lies turmoil, molten lakes, and endless fire. Volcanoes erupt constantly, hurling fountains of sulfur into the airless sky. Its surface is alive with motion, reshaped day by its restless heart. You can almost imagine standing there, feeling the ground tremble with heat while Jupiter looms enormous above the horizon, filling half the sky with its storm-wrapped face. Each orbit of Io drags at Jupiter's magnetic field, tugging invisible threads of energy between them. The result is an unending current, a cosmic wire humming with electricity. This connection fuels auroras on the giant and coats Io's surface with ionized dust that glows faintly under sunlight. It is a relationship both violent and beautiful, fire feeding light, motion feeding magnetism. And though Io is constantly torn and reformed by the giant's gravity, it remains whole, resilient through its destruction. Beyond Io lies Europa, the quiet one. Its surface glitters like cracked glass, a crust of ice covering an ocean that never sees sunlight. The smooth plains are scored with dark lines, fractures that stretch for thousands of kilometers, patterns shaped by the push and pull of tidal forces. Beneath that frozen skin lies something miraculous, liquid water, more of it than all of Earth's oceans combined. The warmth comes not from the sun but from the slow kneading of gravity, a steady rhythm that keeps its hidden sea alive. You imagine floating through that ocean, in total darkness, surrounded by warmth and silence. Perhaps there are creatures there, slow-moving, blind, sensing only vibration and heat. If life exists anywhere beyond Earth, this is where it might dwell, beneath the ice of Europa, hidden from light yet nourished by motion. The thought lingers in your mind like a whisper of possibility, a reminder that even in the coldest places, life may still find a way to sing. Ganymede follows next, vast, regal, the largest moon in the solar system. It's so big it would outsize Mercury, yet it remains a moon, bound to its parent's gravity. It has mountains, valleys, and a magnetic field of its own, the only moon known to possess one. That field makes it unique, a world within a world, standing apart even as it moves in synchrony. Beneath its frozen crust lies another ocean, sealed under layers of ice and rock, cradling secrets older than human memory. As you pass above its surface, you see streaks and ridges marking ancient tectonic shifts, signs that Ganymede once moved and groaned like a living thing. Light falls gently across its plains, revealing craters filled with frost and the faint gleam of distant ice cliffs. There's a calm dignity to this moon, a sense of endurance. Ganymede does not shout its presence. It simply exists, immense and unbothered, turning slowly in its place in the cosmic waltz. Callisto drifts farthest, the quiet guardian of the group. Its surface is ancient, untouched for billions of years, pockmarked with the history of impacts that the others have long erased. It is a record of time itself, a frozen memory of the early solar system. Looking at it feels like reading a book written in stone, every crater a sentence, every shadow a pause. Callisto doesn't move quickly or glow brightly, but it carries the dignity of age. It reminds you that even stillness can be full of story. Together, these 4 moons form a system of perfect rhythm: Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto, each locked in gravitational resonance. Their orbits are not random, they sing to one another, their positions repeating in a pattern of precise ratios. For every orbit of Ganymede, Europa circles twice, and Io 4 times. It's a mathematical melody written in motion, a dance choreographed by the laws of gravity. The harmony is delicate, and yet it has persisted for eons without faltering. You can almost feel that harmony in your bones as you watch them move. Each moon's path bends slightly under the pull of the others, their motions intertwining like threads in an unseen loom. Light glints off their surfaces, creating faint reflections on Jupiter's clouds below. The sight is hypnotic, slow, grand, eternal. You realize that time moves differently here, marked not by hours or days but by orbits and alignments, by tides that never cease to turn. Sometimes, shadows cross the face of Jupiter, small dark circles gliding across its bands. These are the moons passing before their parent, casting silhouettes the size of continents. It's like watching miniature eclipses, quiet and fleeting. Each shadow drifts smoothly across the swirling clouds, a reminder of connection, of how even the smallest worlds leave their mark on the largest. The interplay of light and motion feels like the heartbeat of the system itself. The moons pull on Jupiter, too. Though the planet's gravity rules them, their combined tug causes it to wobble slightly as it spins. This subtle dance reminds you that even the greatest giants are never truly unmoved. Influence flows both ways, the small shaping the great nurturing the small. The system is not a hierarchy but a balance, a conversation between bodies of vastly different size and strength. Europa's surface reflects sunlight with a purity that makes it almost painful to look at. From this distance, it gleams like polished marble, cold and perfect. Beneath the shine, though, is motion, fractures that open and close with each orbit, groaning ice shifting over dark water. The tension creates faint bursts of heat, and sometimes, geysers erupt from its surface, shooting plumes of vapor into space. These geysers freeze instantly, falling back as snow, layering the moon in frost upon frost. Io, by contrast, never rests. The sensors record constant eruptions, ash plumes arching hundreds of kilometers high. They glitter faintly as they catch sunlight before falling back, painting the surface in shades of gold and orange. It's strange to think that this beauty comes from violence, that fire and destruction can create such color. But perhaps that's the way of all creation. Beauty born from unrest, balance from motion, peace from turmoil. Between the orbits of these 4 great moons lie countless smaller fragments, captured asteroids, irregular satellites, faint companions that drift unnoticed. Together, they form a faint halo around Jupiter, a collection of lost and found worlds. Some tumble erratically, never following the rhythm of the main 4. They are the quiet outliers, reminders that even in a perfect dance, chaos still has a place. When you look back toward Jupiter, you see the moons reflected faintly in the swirling clouds. Each one casts a small beam of light across the planet's night side, glimmering like a lantern adrift in storm. The planet seems to embrace them, its gravity holding them gently but firmly, like a parent gathering its children. It's a strange kind of tenderness, this relationship between colossal and small, between storm and stillness. Ganymede's magnetic field interacts constantly with Jupiter's, creating shimmering auroras of its own. These faint glows shift with the planet's rotation, painting patterns of blue and green over the ice. The idea that a moon can hold its own magnetic heart within the embrace of a giant feels miraculous. It suggests independence, that even within great influence, there can be identity, autonomy, and quiet strength. The moon's gravitational pulls also stir Jupiter's interior, creating tides not of water but of gas and plasma. The planet swells and contracts almost imperceptibly, breathing in rhythm with its companions. It's a reminder that everything is connected, that even across thousands of kilometers of vacuum, the pull of one world shapes another. The cosmos is not stillness but a web of movement, each thread vibrating to the touch of another. Callisto remains distant, a solitary figure keeping her patient orbit. The starlight on her scarred surface glints faintly, outlining craters older than life on Earth. Yet even here, in this quietest corner of the Jovian family, there's energy, faint radiation, tiny tides, subtle echoes of the giant's heartbeat. It feels as if every part of the system hums with the same low frequency, the music of mass and motion that never ceases. Sometimes, you imagine what the sky must look like from their surfaces. From Io, Jupiter looms enormous, rising and setting with terrifying beauty. From Europa, the planet glows softly beneath its icy horizon, casting moving shadows across the frozen ridges. From Callisto, the giant appears smaller, serene, a distant lantern in a cold sky. Each moon carries its own perspective, its own vision of the same giant, as if each sees a different face of the same god. You realize that this dance has gone on for billions of years, long before life began on Earth, long before eyes existed to see it. The moons circle, pulled and guided by laws that never tire. Their rhythms are constant, their alignments predictable, yet somehow their beauty never fades. The balance feels sacred, a living expression of the universe's deep patience. Jupiter's gravity sculpts them, but they, in turn, sculpt their own environments. Io's eruptions feed plasma into the planet's magnetosphere. Europa's plumes contribute water vapor to its thin atmosphere. Even Ganymede's field bends magnetic lines, altering the currents that flow between planet and space. These are not passive objects, they are participants in the great system, shaping it as much as they are shaped by it. When eclipses occur, and the moons vanish behind Jupiter's bulk, space feels emptier. Then, slowly, one by one, they reappear, faint crescents glowing in reflected light, emerging from the planet's shadow like dawn breaking after endless night. Their return feels reassuring, as though the rhythm of the cosmos has proven itself once more, steady and unfailing. The longer you watch, the more you sense that their dance is not just mechanical but emotional, a kind of cosmic companionship. Each moon's motion feels like a gesture, Io's wild energy, Europa's quiet mystery, Ganymede's strength, Callisto's solitude. Together they create harmony through difference, a perfect metaphor for balance in diversity. They remind you that beauty comes not from sameness, but from rhythm and relation. As your ship drifts outward, the moons begin to shrink, aligning briefly in a straight line that pierces the dark like a strand of pearls. The sight takes your breath away, 4 worlds, perfectly spaced, their light reflecting softly from the distant clouds of Jupiter. For a moment, the entire system feels still, suspended in silence. Then, gently, they begin to move again, continuing their eternal circuit, their steps unchanged, their music unending. Watching them, you feel the hush of comprehension settle deep within. The moons are not just companions to Jupiter, they are echoes of it, fragments of its origin, each carrying part of its story. They orbit in peace, keeping time with the slow pulse of the giant. And as you turn your gaze once more to the dark between stars, you understand even the smallest worlds can teach the vastness of harmony. The journey, like all grand things, begins to fold softly inward. The ship turns, slow as a sigh, and the view of Jupiter grows smaller, more distant, until it becomes a warm ember suspended in the black. There is no rush, no command from urgency now, only the long, reflective drift that leads back toward the sun. The engines whisper, the hum of systems low and steady, and inside the cabin, the silence holds the shape of every memory gathered from the gas giant's kingdom of storms and moons. Each moment of return carries a trace of what was seen: the swirling red eye, the flash of lightning in the ammonia clouds, the icy glint of Europa far below. They stay behind like quiet guardians, orbiting in thought long after the real ship has passed beyond their reach. It is the strange rhythm of space exploration. Each destination leaves something inside you, something invisible but heavy as truth, and you carry it back through the dark. The sun grows slightly larger with each day. It's faint and golden, like the promise of a candle seen from miles away. Around it, the planets move in their ancient harmony, and you realize that you are part of that same pattern now. Your path through space is not chaos, it's choreography, a deliberate dance carved by gravity and time. The stars no longer seem distant, they feel like patient watchers, waiting for your small vessel to pass through. Inside, the cabin becomes quieter still. The equipment runs itself, the human pulse slows. You think of Earth not as a planet, but as a sensation: the damp smell of rain, the hum of cities, the laughter that echoes in narrow rooms. The mind drifts between what was once ordinary and what now feels sacred, because distance turns even the simplest memories into constellations of meaning. Somewhere in that silence, you realize that coming home is not about returning to a place, it's about rejoining the rhythm of life. Out here, time stretches until it loses shape, and yet every passing minute becomes precious. You watch Jupiter fade into the backdrop of eternity, and you understand, even the mightiest worlds vanish in perspective. It's the quiet lessons that stay. The spacecraft glides, guided by tiny corrections. Each shift feels like a breath taken by the void itself. There's comfort in its predictability, the way mathematics becomes music when it carries you safely through the dark. Stars drift past the window, but they no longer seem like cold points of fire, they look alive, pulsing with soft energy, keeping you company as you dream between the planets. Earth signals reach the cabin in gentle intervals. Words, data, greetings, they arrive like echoes from another life. The ship replies with patient beeps and coded affirmations. It's communication across infinity, proof that even in the most distant silence, connection endures. And somehow, that steady pulse of signal and return feels like the heartbeat of home itself. The mind begins to wander again, to the strange poetry of distance, to the beauty of small things. You remember how light bent across Jupiter's storms, painting pale arcs across the ship's surface. You remember the shadow of Io drifting across the planet's face, a tiny imperfection on a giant canvas. Those images become part of your memory's constellation, eternal, untouched by time. Days stretch into weeks. The return path feels longer, though you know it's not. Space bends thought that way, it teaches patience, demands reflection. You start to speak less to the computer, less even to yourself. Instead, you listen. The hum of the engines, the whisper of recycled air, the creak of metal under temperature shift, these sounds become your lullaby. And when you dream of orbiting things. Moons circling worlds, dust rings shimmering in thin sunlight, and your own vessel tracing invisible lines back to the cradle of humanity. You dream of home not as a destination, but as a constant gravity that never lets you go. Even here, far beyond familiar skies, home is an invisible pull inside your chest. Sometimes you turn off the cabin lights and let the universe reveal itself. It's a cathedral of silence, vast, calm, eternal. The Milky Way stretches across your view, soft and endless, like a painting made of time. You feel impossibly small, yet deeply known. You realize that returning is not retreating, it's completing a circle that began the day you left Earth's atmosphere. Each passing day marks another gentle approach toward sunlight. The cold black around the ship warms, subtly, as though the cosmos itself acknowledges your homeward drift. You don't rush. You savor. The glide, the way the void yields to brightness, how the stars seem to dim one by one as you fall closer to the warmth that raised you. You start to count less time, less distance, fewer signals. Instead, you feel your way through the journey. The craft systems become extensions of your breath, its path becomes your thought. Out here, separation between human and machine fades. Together, you are both voyager and vessel, moving through the last quiet hours of return. In the dim light of the cabin, reflections shimmer on the glass. They're soft, blurred faces of those you left behind, the curve of mountains, the blue of distant oceans. You can almost feel wind again. Almost smell rain. The imagination, once stretched across light years, gently retracts, folding itself back into the familiar rhythm of heartbeat and breath. You take one last look behind, toward Jupiter's realm, now only a golden dot against darkness. It feels like saying goodbye to an old friend. You whisper nothing, because words would only disturb the stillness that deserves to remain. You let the silence hold the farewell, because silence understands what language cannot. Soon, you begin to feel the faint tug of home's gravity. It's not physical yet, it's emotional, ancient. A thread tightening somewhere deep in your being. You remember that gravity is not only a force that binds planets, it's also the invisible bond that ties memory to meaning, and meaning to belonging. The stars thin. The sun brightens. Instruments hum with the faint change in environment. It's the border between wilderness and warmth, the edge between wonder and return. The ship steadies, its systems adjusting automatically. You can almost hear Earth whisper across the distance, "Welcome back, wanderer." As the journey nears its end, you think of all that space has shown you, not just beauty, but humility. The universe doesn't boast, it simply is. And in its quiet example, you've learned that existence is not noise or chaos, but balance. Every storm, every orbit, every drift through the dark has its reason. You close your eyes. You think of Jupiter again, and the lessons it gave without speaking: patience, persistence, peace in movement. You realize that the real discovery was never the planet itself, but the stillness it revealed inside you. The vastness of space only mirrors the vastness within. Now, home draws closer, shimmering blue and alive. The ship begins its slow descent through the inner solar system. Venus passes like a bright whisper on the horizon. Earthlight gleams ahead, and your heart stirs, not in excitement, but in quiet relief. The circle is closing, perfectly, gently. Every second now feels slower, stretched like soft fabric. Time doesn't rush to finish the story, it allows you to savor the last calm before reentry. You are not the same as when you left. You are softened, widened, deepened by distance. You carry the calm of space inside you, and it will never leave. Through the window, Earth rises, a sphere of clouds, oceans, and human dreams. The contrast is overwhelming. After so long surrounded by silence, this living world hums like a heartbeat. You feel gravity's embrace return, not as confinement, but as welcome. The homecoming begins. As you descend, radio chatter fills the cabin, bright and human. Words break through static, laughter mingles with protocol, and you smile, realizing how much meaning sound holds. Even the smallest voice feels like sunlight after endless night. You listen, not just to respond, but to remember that you belong. Reentry burns bright. The glow outside the ship is fierce and fleeting, a reminder of how thin the line is between distance and closeness, between danger and warmth. But the heat fades, and through the windows, blue sky unfolds. The sight of it is overwhelming, fragile, soft, impossibly alive. And as the ship lands, quiet returns, not cosmic silence, but the peaceful hush of completion. You breathe the air of home again. The journey has not ended, it has come full circle. The stars remain above, unchanged, but you have changed, and that's what journeys are meant to do. In the final calm, as systems power down and the cabin settles into stillness, you look up one last time. The night will come again, and with it, the stars. You know now that even when you are home, a part of you will always drift gently between them, forever returning, forever at peace.